Whether you look put together or disheveled, you are always handsome.
You're a good dude. I almost called you a nice guy, but you're a good dude. You know what I mean?
When I'm put together, I look handsome, but I never look handsome when I'm disheveled. I require a little bit of work.
So you think I look disheveled?
You look disheveled. Wild even. Wild.
I literally just got done boxing, and dude, it was hot today, so sweaty. Super sweaty, which I love. I love getting, I mean, right now, man, I'm going through like 2 pairs of shorts and 2 shirts. Like I literally walked out of there today and I wrang out my shorts. Like that's how sweaty I was.
And how is that relative to CrossFit? How is that is it even more sweaty than CrossFit?
Well, I sweat way more in boxing than CrossFit. Way more.
How about when you wrestled as a
yeah, it's relative to I would say it's relative to wrestling. I remember sweating so much to where you would literally just like flop around and be like a fish. You'd be like sliding around the mat. You'd be so soaking wet. Like it's unreal. For sure.
I don't know if I can speak for you, but
you can't.
Okay, well then I'm going to anyway, and then you could slap me around. That was a good answer. People I see comments about people get frustrated that, like, I was interviewing Dave and a lot of people were getting frustrated. I shouldn't say a lot, but I saw a few comments or DMs where people were like, hey, that was rude that he was looking at his computer, or like whatever you're doing right now. I don't know what you're doing. Like maybe
sorry,
you're
yeah, I had
at
to answer. Like, well, I didn't realize we were gonna start recording so quick, and I had one quick thing I had to send off before we started, but whatever.
But it doesn't bother me. It's just the way.
And I'm actually still being attentive. I just need to send a quick email or a text message to my manager because he asked me a quick question. So,
who's your manager?
Well, this is Coop. I consider Coop a manager as well. He's just, but I have 2, I guess.
Is Coop pretty high on himself right now?
In what way?
He's just like, like when you get excited, like maybe how like you're pretty high, you're going to be pretty high on yourself when you snap Jacob Hepner's neck back. Is Coop pretty high on himself right now?
I think Coop's a confident guy. I don't think he has any issues with self-confidence.
like our buddy Matt Fraser.
Oh shit.
That's right. He just does it.
I never sense Matt has those though.
There we go.
Matt's pretty consistent. I mean, I don't know Coop very well, but Matt's not like high on himself one show and then like down on himself the next show. He's pretty just like even keeled.
Even keeled, man. Even keeled. I think that's what you want, right? You don't want. It's
like, who is this? Me or another Matt?
Matt Fraser. You.
Yeah.
Z Matt Fraser.
Matt, you look so mature in that interview with O'Keefe.
Oh, thank you. Dope gym, right?
Are you saying he looks immature most of the time?
So wait, that's your.
I'm good with that either.
That's your gym.
Yeah.
It looked narrow.
No, it's big.
I mean, it looked big. Okay, good.
No, I mean it's not huge. I mean it's 1,000 square feet.
So what is that? Is it 20 by 50 or 30 by 30?
No, I want to say it's like 26 by 36, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, it looked insane. It looked almost like a store, like a retail store to buy rogue shit.
It's bigger than my garage.
It's a good size.
It's bigger than a 3-car garage.
Yeah, big ass rig.
Josh, how did you choose Colorado? Not my question. Someone told me to ask you.
I love the mountains more than the ocean.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, I know. It's not California, so that's a big plus. I have a good amount of friends there. That's big, There were some restrictions when it came to like how far east we could move back. So I don't really want to get into the details on that kind of stuff, but yeah, like there was I couldn't go like
why? Where would you have gone? You wanted to go to Florida or some shit?
No, not Florida. I looked at a few different places, we talked about a few different places, but it was just Colorado was definitely up on the list. It's time for a change with California. I'm not digging it here. I don't hate it here. And I'm keeping my house here, so I'll be able to come back when I need to. But yeah, just time for a change.
What don't you like about California? The politics and the taxes, or the filth, or the what? The cost, or?
No, I think it was taxes was big. Taxes is a big part of it, right? I leave and I get a nice big pay raise, and that's nice.
It's like a 13% raise as soon as you leave, right?
That's it. It's not a big deal. So, cost of living was different. The way the state's run was, a little bit why I'd like to be out of the state. The fact, there's a lot of components, and Colorado just made a lot of sense. It's a place I've always enjoyed going to. And like I said, I have, a few friends there already, so it's not like I'm starting over completely. It's not like I'm going in there and I have to meet new people. And, James Hobart literally is going to be really close to me, like that, in 10 minutes away. Tosh, good buddy of mine. I'll be able to hang out with him. I got another buddy, Rob, there.
Any of your management?
I'm sorry?
Any of your management?
No, they're in Arizona. They're in Phoenix.
Oh, really? Even Coop?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Coop and Jason are both in Phoenix.
Have you ever seen that video? It's super old. It's called Scottsdale Douches.
No. No.
As soon as you said that, I thought of Coop. I wonder if I've ever met Coop face to face.
Maybe at the games, maybe.
He's got a whole stable of athletes.
Yeah,
who are kicking ass now.
The West Coast Classic. I mean, his girls swept the podium, and then two of his athletes took sixth, both sixth places. Male and female are both under Coop. Or lab or whatever.
I guess this question's kind of for both you and Matt. Do you ever feel that because your agents, when they expand, that you guys get neglected?
Sorry, say that again. I'm sorry. I'm dealing with a little something on the side right now.
You go ahead and slap Bank of America around.
You deal with your $670,000 in debt over there, pal. We'll run this podcast, all right?
I really don't care if you guys text. By the way, when we're on the podcast, I don't. I really do your thing.
Yeah. But to answer your question, no, I don't feel like I get neglected in the sense, because I would if I felt like if they weren't doing their job, right? If they weren't getting the things that I require as an athlete, or as I guess I don't know what you want to call it. Someone being managed, I guess. If they weren't getting me the things that I needed, then I'd be like, what's going on here? Why am I paying you if you're not going to do the job for me, and you're off doing other things? So for me, I've never had that feeling of neglect. And if I guess it, and I'm trying
does it help you when they have other athletes? Maybe it's a benefit.
It can be, they start to
some synergy.
Synergy, and they're probably.
Hey, sorry, I gotta jump off for a sec.
Good, beat it, nerd. And so, good. We're gonna hear his conversation. You don't realize it. But there's been times
Matt's too smart for that.
Yeah, there's definitely been times where me and my management, we've had conversations, where maybe I was feeling a little bit somewhat neglected, and so we had a conversation and we fixed it, right? And it was and maybe it was just my perception and not even the reality, which is typical, man. I think that's a thing that a lot of us deal with, right? Is we have our perception, and that becomes our reality, and a lot of times it's not the case, right? It's what we perceive to be true, and then we hear the real story, and you're like, oh, that's what you're doing? Okay, cool. We're good. That's all I needed to hear. Maybe just having better communication sometimes can definitely help when you're dealing with your management. that's it's been a struggle. It's not been a struggle, but it's been a work in progress for us.
And I was thinking along the lines of like he might get like Danielle Brandon a bikini sponsor, and then tell you about it, and you'll be like, "Fuck, I'll put on a bikini for that much money." Next thing you know, you got a thong on.
Yeah, that's that. That's that kind of stuff is gonna be. You're gonna. And my brand won't fit every sponsorship that they deal with for other athletes, right? Like that's what's so cool about the CrossFit world is you have a lot of different brands in the space, and your brand isn't going to fit. Like you can't take offense if a company doesn't want to work with you. That's how I've always tried to look at it, because my brand doesn't fit their brand, and it's not even like, hey, I want to work with it. If I really wanted to work with them, I'd ask and be like, hey, how can we work together? But if we don't fit, if our brands don't fit, then it doesn't make sense anyways, right? Because it's not going to be authentic. It's not going to be organic, and people are going to be like, yeah, Josh Bridges is selling bikinis. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
He's all that is man. He doesn't wear bikinis.
Speaking of bikinis, I guess I need to look on my Instagram. Someone told me that Hebner looks like he's dropping weight too.
Oh, dude, it's impossible not to, bro. Like, I'm telling you, I've leaned out so much, and the only thing I've changed is the fact that I'm boxing now. It's not like I'm not lifting quite as much because I do want my hands to be quicker. I don't want to be quite as tight, but man, it's like it's impossible not to lean out boxing. Like I look at people who go into this boxing gym, and some of them kind of look the same that I've seen for the past year, and I'm like, how have you not lost weight? What are you doing on the other 23 hours a day that you're in here, or that you're not in here? Because, man, it's crazy. Like I've leaned out so much because of it, and it's hard, dude. It's an hour of just straight going. Like there is no stop. It's crazy. I love it.
Hey, his this video he posted on 23 hours ago. I've never seen him move like this.
Yeah, he looks a lot better. I told him that. I texted him
his first few boxing videos, he looked ridiculous. This one's great. This one's awesome.
Yeah, he looks good. He looks smooth. That's what I said.
And he's covering his body good.
Yeah. Right? I mean, dude, he's going to get better. He's an athlete. He's a professional athlete, right? Like, people can say what they want. He's a professional athlete, and that's why I'm not taking it lightly either, right? Because I know Hebner's going to come in, and he's going to train, he's going to work his ass off, and he's going to.
There's some good head movement in there,
and he's going to get better. Yeah, exactly. He's an athlete, man. Like, say what you want, but come September 18th, we ain't going to be friends for 18 minutes. Hopefully,
but he doesn't. But he doesn't really look. He doesn't look leaner to me. He still looks huge.
He's a big boy, yeah. Dude,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I don't know. I don't think videos and pictures, they're like this one little angles and light. You did this shit for years, man. Like, you can make people look awesome. That's what you helped me out for years. I don't ever look as awesome as any of your videos really portrayed me as.
You always look 5'10" in a video.
Right? And you meet me.
I was talking to Taylor Self. You probably don't know who that is. He's a new guy on the scene. He trains with Jason Hopper like once every other week. And where did he compete? Maybe he competed in the West Coast Classic. I don't know where he competed, but he didn't make it. He was in 6th place by 5 points. So Brian and I did a show on the Sevan podcast where we talked to him about the Last Chance Qualifier.
Oh yeah, it's happening right now, right? Or is it this weekend?
Yeah, starts Friday. Mm-hmm. And I think it was him who said something, and I would love to get Matt's perspective on it if he ever comes back to the show. I think he was saying that he wouldn't be able to handle if his coach had another athlete. And I don't think I would be able to, and if it wasn't Taylor, I'm sorry. Maybe it was someone else who told us that. But I don't think I'd be able to handle that either. And
it's
you think
tough.
And I bet you Matt would say he couldn't handle that either. Did Shane coach any other men?
The last couple of years, I don't think so. I think it was just him and Tia for those couple of years. I don't know this for a fact. Like I wasn't there. But
when I think of you, I can't even think who your coach was. Did you even have a coach?
I had a kind of for a little bit.
I remember early in your career you did, but I can't remember.
No. More recently, after 14, I had never had a coach. After 14, it was just me. I got some programming from a couple of people. I got programming from Henshaw for some running and swimming and stuff. I had a legit swimming coach. Actually, my body worker Heidi, she was a collegiate swimmer, and so she helped me with some swimming stuff. And then I got some Oli programming from some people, and then.
But I mean, someone who's sitting in the gym with you. Like when I was looking at,
I never. After 14, I didn't have any sort of coach where it was like someone sitting and like watching my form while I was coaching, or telling me where I needed to push. I just never felt like I really needed that, to be honest. Work, like. Did
you ever want it?
Not really.
Did you get lonely? No. Did you feel left out?
No. I had training partners, right, and I had. Buddies that we would bounce ideas off of for workouts, right? Like, I believe in the ideology behind CrossFit. I think CrossFit is a phenomenal sport, and I love it, but I love the ideology behind CrossFit. Constantly varied functional movements done at different time domains, right? I love that ideology, and I believe in it wholeheartedly, and I think it will be really tough to find a different workout regimen that will make you more fit than CrossFit. For life. And so I've grown up on, I grew up on CrossFit. I started doing CrossFit before it was a sport. I started doing CrossFit in 2005, like January of 2005. And I used it to become, used it to go into my training as, to go into, go to Buds and being a SEAL and everything like that. So I didn't think that I needed a CrossFit coach to tell me how to do CrossFit, right? Like, could it have helped? Maybe, I don't know. You had
CJ for a while, right?
Yeah, he was. That was pre 14. And that was more of like we would same where like we bounced things off of each other. I really don't even know if he was my coach. Like he would send me programming, and I would go in there every once in a while. But yeah, it was more like, and then I'd kind of look at it and be like, I'm gonna do it this way too. Like I would make adjustments to his stuff. Because I think, two minds can definitely be better than one. And I had that with my workout partners and Rich and other guys, that we bounced a lot of stuff off of during those years where I was competing. So, no, I never felt left out. I never felt like I wanted to have one person just sitting there, like, telling me, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this. Because I felt like CrossFit was so new anyways, right? Like, a lot of those early coaches... And I'm not putting this as a bad way, because don't get me wrong, those guys are probably pretty smart at what they do, but they got kind of lucky that good athletes walked into their CrossFit gym. And, they got light shined on them because of their athletes, where it's like, did you create those athletes, or did you just maybe give them a little bit of a regiment, right?
Do you think that you could say that about NFL teams?
NFL, probably.
Because those guys walk in there, right? Already, like,
yeah.
I mean,
those guys,
they're almost at.
I would say yes, probably more so than like high school, where you actually might get some more development from a coach, through high school. But I think those NFL coaches are probably fine tuning, right? Like they can see and speak and tell you probably little, like that's. So the world-class coaching that I've ever gotten has been in some weird stuff, right? Like, I've gotten some world-class coaching in the wind tunnel. Do you know what the wind tunnel is?
No.
So the wind tunnel is a tube, right, that like blows air up and it simulates skydiving. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Okay. And so I went to a wind tunnel course for like 5 days out in Yuma, and when I was in the military, and I had these world-class wind tunnel guys and skydive guys like literally cueing me, and it was just, they could see these little things and be like, hey, do this, and if you're a good athlete, right, you can do it. They don't have to like be like, come on man, like I'm telling you to do something, so do it. So they just were like, they would see these little things and they would make these slight adjustments and it would fix so much. right? And so I feel like that is probably more.
Are you actually floating in the air when they tell you that? So like
Yeah.
you're on your stomach and there's wind blowing and it's keeping you off the ground. And then they're like, okay, take your thumb and put it closer to your index finger, and you move your thumb closer to your finger.
And
or get in the hollow rock position. And so like you kind of.
Exactly. But they can't even talk to you. They can actually only kind of, they have to like speak through like showing you like little things. They're like, oh, turn your hand.
Gesticulating. Like basic.
Like little, very little things. And boom, it would fix you, and it was perfect. And that's kind of what I feel like might be more the case when it comes to like major league sports, where like, don't get me wrong, I don't know, right? I've never played in the NFL, I've never played major league sports, but you're dealing with talent, right? You have very, very talented men and women playing a sport, and now you have these coaches who have coached for years and years and years, and probably at every single level, right? They don't just walk right into the pros typically. I'm not saying they don't, but some do. But and so they've learned where to make adjustments for these athletes. And so that's, when it came to CrossFit, it was like they just kind of, instead of where this conversation started from, I guess, was at those early stages, right? You had these phenomenal athletes that just walk into CrossFit gyms and they went and did great at the CrossFit Games, and so their coaches got all these, I don't know, almost like the accolades, like built these athletes where you're like, did you? Or did you just really show them that doing constantly varied functional movements at high intensity, different time domains really works? So I don't know. I know you love that because I know you love CrossFit.
Of course. When I watch, so Avi's been taking tennis for almost a year, and he's 6 years old, and they're basically teaching him how to serve. And I would have had I can serve a tennis ball. I can throw it up over my head. I can hit it. I can hit it into the spot. But if you see what they're really doing about how the racket changes angles, it's like basically when you swing, you're cutting it like this, and at the last minute it turns and faces the ball.
Right.
It's nuts. And to try to teach a 6-year-old that, or a 9-year-old that, or a 12-year-old, or any human being that.
Yeah.
Like now when I look at people serving, I'm like, oh shit, no. Like I'm watching guys play at the tennis club, and they look like they're amazing to me, but then I realize none of them can serve.
Yeah.
None of them serve like professionals. And this guy's like, this guy's teaching him to serve like really serve. I don't even know what the technique is called, but I know what it's called when you don't serve right. It's called the pancake serve, just like you're swatting a fly.
Yeah.
And that is not how you serve a tennis ball. And I would have had even though I've seen people serve tennis balls 500 times, I never even saw that adjustment that tennis players make at the very end.
No, I've never noticed that either.
And
that's like golf. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that. But so my point is that you could never teach that. Like if once someone's in the NFL, you could never teach someone to, let's say they had a pancake serve, you could never probably get them to change it. I mean, and I use the example of like, look at someone like Shaq, and I don't follow basketball that closely, but it's kind of crazy that his free throws never got better, right?
Yeah.
And are you going to fix that in the NBA?
Right, yeah. No? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm not going to say pro athletes can't make adjustments, because they can, and they will if they need to. But yeah, you're probably right. It's probably more so it's probably more likely not going to happen than going to happen. But yeah, like what you're saying is it's like golf too, man. Like golf is such a technical sport, and to be able to be coached, and like I've gotten to play with, Scott Stallings now, who's a professional golfer, and it's like the little things that he says, you're like, you feel like you knew it, but you didn't know it, and then you do it and you're like, oh damn, okay, that's how you hit a golf ball. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, I bet it's nuts playing with him. I wonder if he gets frustrated playing with people who are like 50 nuances behind him.
He's a good dude. I don't know. He's not. I'm sure he. There's definitely players where you like, if they're so bad, like you're like, this isn't fun. But
like your kids.
No, I actually like my boys are actually getting pretty good. Like impressively good for their age. And it doesn't bother me, because I'm also, when I'm out there, it's more about them and not about my golf game. It's like, I don't really care. Yeah, I'm going to swing and play, but I'm not like, all right, I'm trying to hit my best score ever today, because I know it's more about playing with the boys and bonding with them and and just having that experience where they remember it, and that it's not oh, Dad was just pissed off because he sucked today playing golf. It's like I want them to have fun and me to have fun and be like, yeah, see, Dad hits bad shots too. I hit bad shots all the time. It's golf, man. Like, and so.
Do you have to talk yourself into that before you go out there? I feel like I have to do that with my kids. Like if I go out into the garage with them to work out, like every day I have to have that talk with myself. Okay, the goal is just to get them to move. Do not worry about the outcome. Because if I start worrying about the outcome, I'll fucking murder someone.
Yeah.
I'll get all spun up.
Progress, not perfection, right?
Yeah.
No, yeah, I agree, man. I do. I definitely have those talks with myself. I will be like, listen, you need to back off because you're going to make them hate this. And that's not what you want. You don't want them to hate this. You want them to enjoy this. And you want to enjoy the time with them. So, like, they're not going to be perfect. And that's a really hard thing kind of sometimes to take in and realize, like, hey, they're not going to be perfect because you're not perfect. Like, I can't expect...
But you don't put the end of the golf club in your mouth. And you're like, hey, I've told you 20 times not to put that in your mouth. You know what I mean? You're like, dude...
Yeah. My boys are a little older. They're not putting the golf club in their mouth anymore. But they probably would have a few years ago, like your boys, for sure.
Matt, did Shane train it? Matt, are you okay? What happened? Are you talking with the bank or what the fuck's going on?
No, dude. The bank actually got worked out, but
right.
No, it was like 5 minutes before we're supposed to jump on the podcast. Someone messaged me, and it's just an article of a brand that's claiming that they worked with me in the past. And like, it's all these quotes and stuff. And this guy saying that like, these are quotes from me to him, which A, was a private conversation. And then B, they were not to him, and he's passing them off as his own. And so I've just been trying to deal with that.
Okay. Kill him.
What do you mean? Like these are Matt Fraser's favorite socks. He said that these wick sweat away faster than any socks he's ever worn before. Matt was wearing these socks during the championship in all 5 years, like shit like that.
Basically equivalent to him being like, I personally gave Matt these socks, and it's like, no, you didn't. Like, I had those socks, but you didn't give them to me. And like, he's passing off the conversation that was had as his own, but it wasn't with him. It was with someone that I've gotten to know from the company. And this person found that conversation, like that text thread, and is passing it off as his own. And it's so it's just frustrating that there's people that do things like that. Like, that something like that came across my desk. It's like, well, no, like, even if there is something for me to gain, it's wrong.
Tell the truth.
Yeah. Like, so it's just frustrating, and I'm just kind of dealing. But I had a good call with the people that wrote the article, and so.
And I don't even like these socks.
Right?
Do you like the socks, Matt?
Just for the record, it's not socks. No,
I understand.
I don't want Nike giving me a call and be like, hey, you wearing other socks?
What's this to all talk about socks, Matt?
Wait, what was the original question?
So I'll go back. The original question I was talking to Josh about was sharing his agents, but what the one for you is this: did Shane have any other male clients besides you? Did he work with any other male athletes besides you?
Like athletes?
Shane
No, when Tia and I trained together, he didn't train anyone else. It was just Tia and I. But like working with O'Keefe, like, so I was O'Keefe's first athlete. I'm the one who like got O'Keefe into managing athletes. When I first met him, he wasn't a manager. He wasn't in the space for that reason.
He owned car salesman, wasn't he?
No, he was an insurance salesman.
Oh, okay. Insurance.
Same
Same.
Different, but same.
Yeah.
No, he used to have a car dealership. So I worked with him because he had a clothing brand that I was sponsored by. And
that's right.
And then he started reviewing some contracts for me. He was like, I deal with contracts all the time. My wife's a lawyer. She can kind of go through this legal mumbo jumbo. And so it became like he reviewed one and then another, and then it quickly became anytime a contract came in, he was the one dealing with it, negotiating, stuff like that. And then people started coming to me of like, hey, heard you have this guy. And I was like, you mean O'Keefe? And so I started referring athletes to him. And I think his next athlete may have been Katrin. And I would get like messages from catch of like, or whatever athlete, and like, hey, I heard you have this guy. And so I think it was Pat Vellner and Brent Fikowski. I mean, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm the one who linked all of them up. And, you know, like, and then Sammy worked for O'Keefe for a couple of years. So Sammy took over the athletes when O'Keefe was doing the competition stuff. And I would be coming in from training. Sammy would be like fixing my lunch or doing whatever she needed to do. And she would be on the phone with Brent or Pat, like helping them with their contracts or their obligations, whatever it was. I mean, if you have someone that's good, like there's not any conflict there. You know, you have a line drawn. It's not a story I've heard from some other names in the space, but if you're with someone good, like I haven't heard anything bad about, you know, Josh's people, my people, anything like that. But yeah, if you got a good team, it works.
So I would think it could go ahead, Josh.
So Keith owes you a cut of all those contracts, basically.
Oh, for sure. 3% minimum finder's fee.
Just saying.
No, he's done plenty. He's done plenty for me.
Matt, we talked about this. Josh and I were talking about this, and I didn't think of this example, but I wonder what it's like when someone comes to, like, I mean, because I have to guess that someone will come to O'Keefe and be like, "Hey, we have this pair of socks we want to sell. Would Katrin wear them?" And then he might. I wonder how he processes or how he deals with thinking, oh, actually, you know, those socks would actually look better on Brent. Let's talk about Brent. Or like, I mean, ethically, he's always being put in agents are being put in these weird positions. I mean, I don't know. So, I don't know the job. Maybe they have some code. Maybe
I've heard stories of that, of, you know, like an agent had like an A tier athlete and then like some B tier athletes. And like sponsors would come in interested in one of the athletes and one of the B tier. And then the agent would like take that connection away and give it to someone else. That's pretty shady to do. I know a lot of the relationships have been like a sponsor goes to an agent and it's like, hey, we're looking for an athlete. We're looking for a male games athlete. And they're like, all right, here's our roster. I think option A, B, or C is a good fit. You know, D through F, they don't really fit your brand. Or vice versa of, hey, you know, like there's a handful of apparel companies, a handful of supplement companies, and just some athletes aren't a natural fit for certain brands. And so it's like, all right, let's not force this relationship. Let's find you a company that is an organic fit, you know?
Like if Big and Tall wanted to do a suit line and they came to O'Keefe, they wouldn't use you, they'd use Fikowski.
Yeah. Most likely.
They wouldn't use you and Josh. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I don't know if I understand the correlation of that, but sure.
Hey,
you know,
I was going to
use
a Trojan Magnum reference, but every time I do, Matt looks like he bit into a lemon, so I didn't want to use that one. But Matt, would you have? I think I was talking to Taylor Self. He's an athlete who's doing the Last Chance Qualifier, and I think it was him. And I was telling Josh's Taylor Self.
Okay.
He trains like every other week or every week, once a week with Jason Hopper. Jason Hopper kind of turned me on to him. And so I think it was him.
Have you spoken to Jason
Hopper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, was he on your podcast or you just spoken to him?
No, he was on the he's been on the podcast 13 times.
Oh, sick.
No, I'm joking. But he's been on 2 times, and I think he's going to come on tonight.
Oh,
also.
Cool.
Is he your new crush? New man crush?
Not yet.
You definitely have man crushes, and it's very easy to tell when you have them. Does he make you warm and fuzzy when you think about him?
The same way that me and O'Keefe hooked our card up to the Fraser horse, I suspect that Hopper's a good one too.
Okay.
You know, sink my teeth into his back and hold on tight. I don't know. Hopper won the Mid-Atlantic, so Brian Friend said, "Hey, let's get him on the podcast." We got him on the podcast. We hit it off.
You fell in love.
And actually, on that first podcast, I told him, I'm like, "Dude, do you have an agent?" And he goes, "No." I'm like, "Dude, you got to just right on the podcast." I'm like, "Dude, you need to talk to fucking Matt O'Keefe. He's the man." And then the next podcast, I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to the West Coast Classic. I'm like, that's stupid. Why are you doing that? You should be at home training. He's like, because Matt O'Keefe invited me. I was like, that's smart.
Here it is. He's gonna be a podium athlete here soon.
So you don't believe that, do you? Oh, that podium. I see what you're saying. For sure. For
Come
sure.
on, man. You gotta get with the game, Sevan. You're so slow, bro.
Sorry.
I spent a lot of time with him out at West Coast Classic. Super fun kid. He was a lot of fun to be around. He's got a great wife, so a great support system there. And he's a freak of an athlete.
How old is he?
23.
Oh, damn. 23.
Bro, homie weighs 220.
He quit he was on Clemson's football team, right?
Yeah.
What was his position?
I think he was wide receiver.
What?
I'm not 100% sure on that.
How tall is he?
Like 6'1", 6'2".
He's humble about it in the sense that I think, and I'm going to fuck this up. He's probably going to yell at me, but I think he was a walk-on, and he was really good, but he just wasn't good enough for any of the positions. Like, he was a good wide receiver, but there was always someone faster. Then they switched positions, and he wasn't big enough. But I mean, he still made the team. He's obviously still a freak of nature.
Exactly right. He's
pretty humble about it.
He made the Clemson football team, who's been in the national championship like 3 out of the last 5 years or 6 years or something stupid.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So he turned me on to a guy named Taylor Self. And so we had Taylor Self on the podcast, and he basically was saying something. I think he was saying something along the lines where he wouldn't, he wouldn't want his coach to coach another athlete. He's not interested in that. I think it was him who said that. Someone told me that recently.
The thing about
and then I was thinking Matt wouldn't like that either. You wouldn't like that, huh, Matt?
No, of course not. No, absolutely not. Like that's an easy answer for me.
And you wouldn't even tolerate it, right?
Another female, that's fine. As long as
someone
I felt,
you're competing against.
Yeah, as long as I felt that it was, even with the female, as long as like there's equal attention given, because you see those situations all the time of, it's like the stamp's getting put on both athletes, but it's like you're coaching one and then the other one's just joining in. There's a big difference between being a programmer and a coach. And I feel like that's a very, very common misconception in the space of what a coach actually is. And, it's kind of
Was Shane your coach or programmer?
I'd say by the end of my career, there wasn't much coaching going on. There was some. He definitely helped in a lot of ways. I'd say for the last year, he was my coach. A lot of it was programming, and then in workouts, like I would kind of I would say to him sometimes, like, hey, like, feel free to yell at me in a workout, when you see me do something, because, he's very vocal with Tia. They have that relationship where there's never a worry of, is this going to get taken the wrong way or anything like that. They're comfortable with each other, obviously. I think by the end of it, there wasn't much coaching to do, but yeah, he definitely was. But yeah, I've just seen it before of like, oh yeah, so-and-so is my coach. And it's like, oh, like, do you train with them every day? And it's like, oh no, they just send me a spreadsheet. And it's like, well, it's not a coach. That's a programmer.
Josh was making that distinction too. He said, yeah, I got programming from Henshaw and others, but
yeah. They're my coaches, right. And I think that, I get hit up all the time, right? I want to do your program. Can you be my coach? And I'm like, no, I can't be your coach. I don't have time to be your coach. And I'm like,
yeah,
it's a lot of effort to put into an athlete, right? A coach, and you have to be committed to that person. And I think, like Matt was trying to say, right? Like, when you have a coach coaching two different athletes that are competing against each other, like, I don't know, that's just kind of weird. And I always felt silly and exactly, like, because a coach is going to tell you how to beat people. And so if you got a coach coaching two different people, what are they? So you're going to confide in your coach so he can go tell the person how to beat you? Like, what the fuck?
I think
it doesn't make any sense.
I think that if there's a coach training two competitors, I think, like, we all know there's like two different packs at the games. Like, there's the pack that's trying to win, and then there's the pack that's trying to place as high as possible.
Yeah,
and so, you know, if they break top 10, they're happy, whatever it is. I think when there's that dynamic where there's clearly this one's trying to win, this one's trying to do as well as they can with what they have, I think that can work. Mm-hmm. But it is really tough training two competitors. You know, I've had it recently where, like, I trained with one person and then I trained with another one, and I'd be disappointed if they weren't asking about each other. And because, like, yeah, if I'm working with a new coach or a new training partner, I know they train with a competitor of mine. Yeah, of course I'm asking. Why would you not? And
of course you are, Matt. You're always trying to get the information out, but never willing to give it up.
Of course.
Never.
That's the best negotiator right there.
My favorite
Get
part
everything, give nothing.
Matt's always like, hey, what did you get off of this sponsorship or whatever this deal? I don't know, Matt. What did you get off of that sponsorship or deal? Like, he was the worst. He would always ask, man. And, like, I'd be like, I don't think we're going to talk about this right now, because I know you're not going to fucking tell me what you got. So that was Matt's fucking MO every time.
All right. To be clear, that happened one time.
Bullshit. I can probably count 5 off the top of my head.
I'm not buying it.
Going back to Hopper second, someone else suggested this, that there was a time in basketball that, and I don't remember what the position was, whether they were talking about a power forward or what, but they were saying that the perfect height was 6'4". And then all of a sudden, the guys started coming in who were 6'9", who were just as athletic as the guys who were 6'4", and that became the perfect height. Do you think we're seeing some sort of transition in the sport? And I want to follow that up with this: because there's less opportunities for women in professional sports, I'm making that presupposition. Do you think that the men's is now a little bit behind the women's level of competition because women see CrossFit as equal to the other professional sports out there, and so CrossFit hasn't pulled these guys who are like, their dreams are to play in the NFL or to play in the NBA or to play in the NHL?
All right, so first question, is there a transformation happening in, like, the ideal build for CrossFit?
Yeah, like, are we going to start seeing guys who are 6'2" who can do deficit handstand push-ups as good as guys who are 5'8" 3 years ago?
I mean, personally, I think there's been, like, a vicious cycle of, you know, people hear the commentators of, like, oh, he's taller, he's not going to be good at this, and then they believe it. And so then they allow themselves, they finish a handstand push-up workout and they just go, oh, well, what are you going to do? I have long arms, or I'm tall, you know? And then it's like permission to not progress in that one movement. Now, are they fighting an uphill battle? Well, yeah, levers and physics don't lie. You know, if you have longer arms, if their proportions are off, yes, some moves are going to be more difficult than others. I've heard it about everything. Oh, he's shorter, so, like, his rowing is not going to be as good. Oh, you know, he's shorter, so his wall balls won't be as good. And I was like, fuck you, I'm going to win them. I'm going to win those. You know, I never got to the point of winning a super, super long row, but I'm one of the shortest guys out there, and I'm placing in the top 10 on a marathon row. Like, suck it. Right. I think there will be a progression of the body style changing a bit. I think there are going to be guys that come in and they just don't listen to those excuses. Or they don't listen to those commentators and believe the bullshit of, like, oh, so-and-so behind the desk said I'm not supposed to be good at this, so I'm just going to stay not good at this. No, that's silly. Like, it's a professional sport. Every sport caters to a body style. Like, am I walking onto the NBA court complaining of, like, oh, if I was 6'9", I'd be a lot better? It's like, yeah, no shit. But you're not. So right. Go find something that suits you, you know? So I think there is going to be a progression change, you know. I've had my eyes on some people that are way bigger than the norm, and they move so well. So yeah, I think like any sport, it's going to progress. I think, 405 is going to become the new standard for cleaning. 300 is going to be a standard to be at the games for a snatch. We're going to start seeing more and more common 5-minute miles. That's the hope of the sport, right? Is to progress to that level that, then it's a cutthroat competition.
It'll be interesting to see if it actually does become that. And I agree with you, Matt, in the sense that, yes, obviously the sport's going to progress and you're going to see bigger weights. But I think that the overall balance of the CrossFit Games can mitigate that in some way, right? Like, I don't know if, and I'm not saying it's not possible. Obviously, everything's possible if it's something that someone wants to put their mind into. But, I think the balance of the sport is going to kind of keep that body composition where it's not like a standard, right? There isn't the 5'8", 195 perfect build, because it's going to be work ethic, it's going to be discipline, and who's willing to put it. You see, and I think we've talked about this before, but that's why you see the guys who come back year after year after year, right? And then you see those guys who only come in for 1 or 2 years and they go away very quickly, because this sport is like no other sport, where in certain sports you have to rest and you have to recover and to get better. In CrossFit, man, like, you have to learn to be able to train more and longer. Like, that's it. And it's like, and it's crazy. It is. The volume of training is crazy. The intensity is crazy. And now going into like another sport like boxing and seeing the difference, it's just nuts, man. Like, the sheer pounding that the body takes in CrossFit takes a certain type of mindset. It doesn't take a certain type of body. It takes a certain type of mind. And those are the ones that they're gonna strive, and we're gonna see greatness out of them. And I don't know if there is gonna be a single build that comes from that.
Yeah, like
body.
It was funny as you talked like about training other sports, and like I've gotten to see some other top level athletes train in their sport, and like I've lived in a bubble. I haven't trained with anyone else really. Like I do what I do, and then I don't see any outside opinions or what other people are doing. And seeing these top level athletes do their strength and conditioning work, and just seeing like these are stud athletes, and like, yeah, we got conditioning work today, and then watching them do it, I'm like, that's not fucking conditioning. What's
worse
doing?
Is some of them have commercials where they show it.
Yeah.
And even your most basic CrossFitters, like, what the fuck am I looking at?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild seeing, like, I mean, like I've said it for years. I mean, even talking about in the space of CrossFit, people are like, I dedicate everything. Like, this is what it's all about. I'm like, you don't dedicate shit. I've watched you train.
They do. That's the thing but that's all those sports require, right? Where CrossFit's not that way, man. You can't come into CrossFit naturally and just be a great athlete and be good at it, because it's insane. It's absolutely insane, because you have to be good at sprinting. You have to be good at long distance. You have to be good at lifting heavy weights. You have to be good at powerlifting. You have to be good at Olympic weightlifting. You have to be good at gymnastics. And then you have to have a fucking mindset where you're like, I don't give a fuck what I have to do. I'm going to do it. And then tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to fucking do it again with a smile on my face, because it's absolutely fucking insane. I look at what I've done for 15 years of volume, and I'm like, it's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy.
You just described Danielle Brandon, by the way.
Okay.
It's real. I just had her on
every great CrossFitter is what I just said. Well, like, I mean, you can describe one person, sure.
But let me tell you why. There were 3 things that you said. You said so when I had first interviewed Mikko Salo in 2009, he wanted to be a professional soccer player. Maybe he was a professional soccer player. And you have Katie Henniger, who was a professional basketball player, right? And they transferred those skills over to CrossFit, right? And there's a lot of people like that. But when I was interviewing Danielle Brandon, she was I thought she was just a track star. She was a pole vaulter at Sac State. She had some college records. But then after you dig a little bit deeper, she did gymnastics 8 hours a day for like 7 years, and then got tired of gymnastics, and then went to track and field and did the pole vaulting and set records, right? But then what's even crazier is what you said, is that you have to get up every day and be happy about it and fight to survive. Well, and when she was in the 3rd grade, she was separated from her mom and moved in with her aunt and uncle, I think, and with her little brother, and it became just survival every day. And so she like these are lifestyles that are built into her, right? Like just survive. Like you got separated from your mom. Now you're in this new family, but you're also going to gymnastics 8 hours a day. And then finally you parlay that into a track and field, and then while you're doing track and field, one of your knucklehead friends says, you want to try this CrossFit shit, and bam. But she has...
Yeah, the best athletes come from places where they have nowhere else to go, right? Like,
wait, explain that to me? I like the way that sounds. That should be the title of your book, Josh. Say that again.
I mean, I think, and this isn't like, this is a very blanket statement, but I mean, the best athletes come from places where they have nowhere else to go, right? Like, what else is there for them to do other than play sports, right? I mean, the best boxers, the best fighters typically come from really shitty backgrounds, right?
It's a survival mechanism.
Exactly. It's like, it's either this or I'm selling drugs or being whatever, like doing something awful in life. It's like, or I could go be great at another, or at a sport. And so like, there's so many great athletes out there. They just have to get that little bit of direction, and all it takes is one little aspect in their life of someone being like, "Hey, man, you'd probably be really good at this. You should come try it." And then boom, those persons that addictive personality that I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna become the best at this. Like those are where your athletes come from. I feel like, it's not always the case, right? But a lot of times.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm leaning towards always. My wife hates it when I say never and always. But when I interviewed Travis Bagent for Pulling John, and we went to West Virginia and we filmed with him, and he took us to his old stomping ground, and he lived in a trailer with his like a motorhome, tiny 20-foot motorhome, with his mom and his brother. And the only reason he told me he got into sports was that so other parents would like him, so that he could go to their house and shower because they had no running water.
Damn, yeah, that's crazy.
Woof.
And so there you go, right, Josh? And it became, what was the sentence used? You have nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
Sports really is your only way out.
Right. I mean, I don't think Matt came from a background like that. You know what I mean? I don't think.
I think there's more to Matt than we know. I think that there's.
But like I said, it's not a blanket statement, or it is a blanket statement. But then there's always going to be different. There's also going to be different scenarios. But you see so many great athletes come from those shitty scenarios where it's either down one road or down another road.
Think about like all the athletes that grew up in a broken home, and whether it was whatever sports field, soccer, basketball, or like a boxing gym, whatever it was. And it's like, either I can stay here and train where people are nice to me, I feel rewarded for the effort I'm putting in, or I can go back to that house where, whatever it is, like there's no running water, it's an abusive, or people are always yelling, whatever it is. And it's like, well, that's a pretty good motivation to stay in the gym and keep working the drills and, whatever it is,
True, man.
Rodney Mullen, the greatest, maybe the greatest trick skateboarder in the history of the world, innovator, all that shit. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but
yeah,
same thing. Just his skateboard was his friend. Just spend fucking 15 hours a day, in the parking lot with your skateboard by yourself, avoiding whatever. So Matt, let's go back to this other topic about and maybe you have a bias here, but are we not seeing? So in the beginning, it seemed like CrossFit, the men ran away with the high level competition, like they were years ahead of the women.
Now, was it they, or was it Rich?
No, even before. Sorry, but even before Rich, right? So like you would see this level of competition that the men. There were people like Spieler and James Fitzgerald and Jason Khalipa popping on the scene before there was like Annie, Katie, and Andy.
Okay. Yeah, I think
And then, but are we going to start seeing better athleticism and different shapes of men as CrossFit becomes a bigger sport and as the prize money gets bigger? Or are we just going to start? Do you think that that's affecting the sport for the men versus the women, being that the women don't have as many professional opportunities in sports out there? Or maybe I'm even lying. Maybe there's a chance I don't even know what I'm talking about, and women have even more opportunities in sports. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure the barrier to entry for most men coming into the sport is probably a little bit lower because, it's like, I feel like it's very common for guys to want to get as big as possible, to be as strong as possible. It's probably less common on the female side. But I think that's changing. I think, like the whole thing of like strong is beautiful. That is a real thing. And so, yeah, I think there probably is a transition happening. But then again, too, it's just the popularity of it. Like I look at it as, I remember way back when it was like, I remember asking a weightlifting coach, like, why is the United States so bad compared to the rest of the world? And I was like, because there's no money in it. Like, he was like, imagine if weightlifting paid, or like, imagine if every NFL running back started as a weightlifter and like had the compensation that was equal. Like, yeah, we would be contenders on the world stage, but in this country, like no crazy athletic person is like, I'm going to do this. They're like, no, I'm going to go play football or basketball or something where there's like these multi-million-dollar contracts. But yeah, like looking at some of these running backs that just have like tree trunks for legs and they're just muscle on muscle. And it's like, man, if you taught them how to snatch and clean and jerk at 4 years old, could you imagine the weight they'd be moving today? And so I'm sure it's like just the amount of eyes getting on it and the appeal to it with CrossFit of like, it's fun. It's the community aspect. They're everywhere. It's not one of these obscure sports anymore. It's like, where it's like, oh, did you get a full ride scholarship because you were actually a good athlete or because you were one of the 4 people that did that sport, Right. It's not one of those situations. It's like USA Weightlifting's membership tripled or quadrupled after CrossFit got involved.
Arrived on the scene.
Yeah. So there's situations like that where I'm sure it's just the popularity of it and it's just getting more eyes on it. So more people are trying it. And the opposite's happening too, of like people that were into CrossFit figured out, oh, I like powerlifting. Oh, I like Olympic weightlifting, and kind of go with each of those branches.
I heard one of the two of the dads talking in Avi's tennis clinic while the kids were training, and their kids are older than Avi. They're like 12, and one of them was saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna start." Forget the kid's name. Bill. I'm gonna start Bill in Mandarin Chinese, and the other parent goes, "Why?" And he goes, "Because if you speak Mandarin Chinese and you're good at tennis, you're guaranteed to get into it." And he named off like 5 schools, and they were like amazing schools, And I'm like, holy shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, time to get Avi to speak Mandarin, Like, what the fuck?
And we also have to remember this. So the sport's growing, right? But CrossFit, but the type of mindset it takes for CrossFit is very different than most sports, right? Like weightlifting doesn't hurt as much as CrossFit. Golf doesn't hurt as much as CrossFit. Football doesn't hurt as much as CrossFit. Like the type of mindset for you to become a professional athlete in the sport of CrossFit is just very different. And I think it's just not as common.
How about biking? Sorry, I know that's not the point of what you're saying. How about the Tour de France guys?
Even that's better than CrossFit. You know what I mean?
Because that looks some painful shit.
It's super painful. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's easy by any means. But at least you're on a bike, like enjoying views.
You're sitting down. You're sitting down.
Sometimes where you're like, there is, and don't get like, man. I think what I'm just trying to say is that
Josh is going to get destroyed for this. Let's let him talk about this for 10 minutes.
No,
Matt.
we can talk about destroyed. Go ahead and then prove me wrong. It's like how I'm going to compare it to is like wrestling. right? Like wrestling is a love-hate sport. I loved wrestling, but I hated doing it. I hated practicing. I hated training. I enjoyed the matches, because they were only 6 minutes long. But man, like there is no end in sight with CrossFit, right? Like there is, like, and I think all sports there's no end in sight. But like going out and playing a game of football is fun. Going out and playing a game of golf is fun. Going out and like on a bike ride is fun. Like the workouts in CrossFit a lot of times still aren't fun.
I understand what you're saying. And like, I'm sure like me, like you've had the opportunity to train with some other professional athletes and you see what they're doing compared, you look at their practice day and you're like, oh my God, like that wasn't difficult. Like, yeah, you spent a lot of time, you worked on technique and all that stuff, but it's like, it never hurt, I think there's just a broad sweeping of like football is fun. Oh no. Like, really? I'm sure there's moments that are fun. There's moments where, the guy breaks for 80 yards and gets a TD, but like,
they have the hope for fun for sure every play.
Yeah. And
they have the hope at least for fun.
Like
even if it's not fun.
I've always been envious. Like I've watched some basketball, behind the scenes of documentaries of like a specific player leading up to the season, that type of thing. And, they talk about, he's training 8 hours and it's like, yeah, he is, but it's like practicing on his free throw technique, like all like non-load bearing stuff. And I've always been envious of that. Like, I wish I was in a sport where like you could put in 8 hours and it wasn't a fucking beat down, like where you're not worried about like even if we do body weight stuff of you're still worrying about your hands tearing. You're worried about, tearing, like getting cuts or like even something as low impact as rope climbs. You do enough of them, you're going to fucking burn through your heel and your shin and your hands.
And don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here bitching and complaining. I'm saying it takes a certain type of mindset that's not very common in even sport. Like I love CrossFit. Yes, the days that suck the most, I like them. I enjoyed the most. I'll get done with the workout and I'll be laying on the ground, and I feel like I'm going to cry because my legs hurt so bad. But then at the end, I'm like, that was really fun. You know what I mean? But I think we're messed up in the head. I think, like we're crazy. But it's been my type of, it's been what I've always enjoyed is like just pushing my body to the limits. All I'm saying is it's not as common as a mindset. And that's why I think the sport will evolve. It'll just be slower than like a basketball, baseball, football, golf, all those types of sports, right? Like, yes, those athletes are going to come, but there's going to be a longer weeding out process.
I think it's much more physically painful, the training, and then the money is fractional,
right?
To the sport.
You could be
No, I agree with you. I just like that juxtaposition of thoughts. Yeah,
you could be really, really great and still not make that much money.
You could be fucking amazing and never make it to the games.
You could be, even if you do,
fucking amazing.
Listen, like even if you do make it to the games and you take third fucking place,
right. You can still not make money.
And you're the third fittest person on earth. You make what, $25,000? What the fuck is that going to do for you? You know what I mean? Like,
and we're not complaining. And by the way, I'm not complaining. I'm not suggesting they should get paid more either.
That's the thing. They have to. If you want the sport,
I don't think so, but whatever.
Well, if you want the sport to progress, how does it not?
Why? Sevan, why do you think they shouldn't?
Why does the third fittest person on earth not deserve money?
Let's take emotion out of this. Yeah. Let's take emotion out. Let's calm it down.
Remove the emotion. Sorry, I had another cup of coffee. I'm fired up. Let's go.
He's all leaning into the camera again. Back to show one. Because I think that's a moot point. I think it's capitalism. I think it's free markets. I think it's like, hey, look what Rich did. He got a movie named after him called Froning, the Fittest Man Alive. That was fucking that. I mean that is amazing, and he was able to parlay that and turn that into the Mayhem Empire. And along with his incredibly hard work and accolades and whatever tactics you used, Matt, like to stay the course and win 5 in a row, so just no one can say anything. There's no discussion anymore. And then now you're parlaying that into, you're taking your hard work and parlaying that into more opportunities. You know, being on that TV show where you said that line. Someone sent me a clip, by the way. You delivered that perfectly. You deserve an Emmy. And you know what show I'm talking about? The Blue Mountain one?
Oh, Blue Mountain State. Yeah.
That was, the coach was yelling. I forget what you said, but the coach is yelling at you. Someone finally. Though. Yeah. So like, I don't think that like CrossFit should be like, my thing is focus on the affiliates, grow the community, keep pushing that angle, and let the free markets, when there's enough money, it'll trickle down to the athletes.
I think
the same way the WNBA doesn't deserve to get paid as much as the NBA.
I think it's a shame.
It's entertainment.
I think it's a shame that CrossFit as a sport and CrossFit as a methodology are named the same thing, because they are not the same thing. And focusing on the affiliates is one total thing that is phenomenal and it's its own thing. But then I think having the athletes as free advertising, you know, it's promoted.
Sure, and I agree. Okay.
You cannot, no, I don't want to say you can't, but it's very unlikely that you're going to have someone that has a full-time job or has a family is going to make it into the top 10. And if you want to see the sport grow, not CrossFit, the affiliate side of it, you want to see CrossFit as the sport grow, there needs to be more opportunities for the athletes to be able to train full time, to not have that job, or, you know, whether it's,
I agree.
And if that comes from, what does 10th place get paid? 10 grand, maybe.
But what I'm saying is, don't get me wrong. I would love it if all the athletes in the CrossFit Games made $10 million a year. But what I'm saying is I don't think it should be the goal or the focus. I don't think it comes that way. It's like going to McDonald's on your first day of work and wanting your paycheck. Just put in the community. And first of all, let me say this. I think CrossFit as a sport goes away if you take away all the affiliates overnight. I think it's insane to think that thing exists even for a second without the affiliates.
But that would be like saying,
that's not the discussion.
Yeah, no one's saying that. So you don't dump your money into the affiliates. Not saying that you shouldn't. You should. But I think we're talking about two separate things here. I think did I
conflate something? Go ahead.
You're trying to blend, like, CrossFit should focus more on the affiliates because CrossFit as a business should. That's their business, right?
No. What I'm saying is that so maybe this is where we had the misunderstanding. It's not that I don't think third place deserves more money. It's just sure, but I just don't think that it's I don't think it's CrossFit HQ's fault that third place doesn't get more money.
Well, you can't expect the sport to grow if CrossFit's not willing. Who's going to pay them?
Who is in control of cutting the sanctional prize money down to $5,000?
I believe that they have a budget and they're working with the best budget that they can in order to grow CrossFit as a whole as fast as it can. They're a business. I'm sure they want it to grow. They want the whole entire thing to grow, right? Let's say it's all one symbiotic fucking thing that has synergy. They want the whole entire thing to grow. And if they thought that it would grow faster by putting more money into it without sinking the ship, I'm sure they would. I think.
Don't get me wrong.
I don't personally think that's their interest.
What do you think their interest is?
I don't know what
that guy's a full-blown gamesista, the guy in charge. He loves the games. He is the games. Mr. Rosa.
I don't think
Eric
that
Rosa.
it's okay. There's a
co-CEO.
We're talking about a lot of different things here, right? And you're talking about CrossFit as a whole.
Don't worry, they'll figure it out in the comments, Josh. Don't worry, we don't have to figure it out. They'll figure it out.
No, but I think if we're solely talking about CrossFit as a sport, it grows. Yes, the athletes need to be able to make more money to become real professional athletes, and you'll see longevity in the sport. It's also on the athletes to grow their brand as and figure out where their place is and where they can make money, other aspects, and build their own brand with the sport of CrossFit. CrossFit has given me a great platform, and I never won the CrossFit Games, but I still have a great platform, and I'm still able to work with what I was given because CrossFit was a sport, and I am very appreciative of that. I don't think that second place is worth 5 times less than first place. I don't think third place.
I don't think it is though, right? First place is like 300,000 and second place is 180.
No, it's not. No, second place was it was always 75. I think 50. It just bumped up. Yeah. And then it bumped to 75.
Yeah, it was 250.
I want to say 90. Maybe 90 now? 90, maybe 100.
Yeah.
CrossFit Games prize
I
money.
could say, even half, okay, that's fine. I'd be okay with that. But I think that we, if we're talking about growing the sport, yes, to get more athletes to come over to the sport, they have to be paid because it has to be their full-time job.
Well, I think when the sport's big enough, they will get paid.
Okay. Well, there you go. And there's your answer.
No,
yeah,
but
where's that?
No, but what about the situation where there was more prize money? There were competitions that had more prize money.
Yeah.
And then if they wanted to join into the sanctional, their prize money got cut down to $5,000 for the winner.
That's disgusting. Did that really happen?
Yeah. Man,
yeah. Jesus Christ. How are you?
The sanctionals last year, dudes were making $100,000. And then they could go to multiple ones. They could go to multiple ones. It was awesome.
Just so you know, okay, before we go back, first place is 310, second place is 120, third place is 80 for this year. Just so you know.
So cool. Third.
Okay, so
I've done a sanctional where I think I cleared. I know I've done one. I think Rogue was like 60 or 70,000, and then Dubai a couple years ago I cleared 100. And
so now they're told they can't?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Dude, yeah, the winners of these semifinals are making $5,000. That's what it was when it was, and that was the same as what it was.
I saw that, but
that's
being forced by CrossFit HQ?
Yep.
Wow.
Well, because,
why would they do that?
Those were the same sanctionals, right?
Some of the sanctionals asked, like, they tried to put in extra prize money, and they were not allowed to.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Wow.
I didn't know that either. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, we're gonna have to cut this part out of the podcast for sure.
Why? Can any of us get fired?
No, I'm joking. I just said that to stir you up a little bit.
That's funny.
Dude, there's not much you can do anymore to stir me up.
Good.
Take $670,000. That might stir you up a little bit.
All right. So that problem got solved. Do you know?
Is that in a Vanilla Ice song?
Yeah.
That line?
I think it was.
Something? Yeah. Okay,
go
ahead.
I'll solve. Yeah. So the guy, I don't know if you know him, the guy who runs Make WODs Great Again.
Okay.
He's the one who solved it for me.
That's Sevan's buddy.
Oh, is that the dude? Yes. The guy who's selling my T-shirt?
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. He helps you out.
I've thanked him many times. I just don't know if he wants.
If you really want to thank him, stop doing this podcast with me. That would he'd probably bust a nut.
Yeah, I just don't know if he wants his name out there or if he wants any of that info about himself out there. But yeah, he's the one who made some calls and got me connected with the right people. And yeah, so it got resolved. Like, I got a call the guy, talked to him for 10 minutes. He called me back 15 minutes later. He's like, all right, you're all set. I'm like, dude, what in the world happened? He's like, yeah, I don't know. He's like, I think you slipped through a crack somehow. And then I got a call.
Did you go straight to your computer and see if your shit was straight?
Yeah. Like, I'm on the call with him and I logged on my phone and he called me back maybe 15 minutes later. And he was like, all right, your funds are available. And I was like, wait, that's it? And I almost got more mad because I'm like, the problem was that easy to solve? Like, what the hell? And I got a call from Bank of America customer service the next day. And they were like, hey, we're going over this case, your case. And like, we just wanted to apologize. Like, this was handled so terribly. And I was like, yeah, like, it was 3 weeks. I called at least a half dozen times. They're like, you called 9 times. And I was like, oh my God. So anyways, it's all sorted now. We're good to go.
Why did you answer the call when they called? I can't imagine you being the kind of person who answers your phone. Did you know it was them?
No, I usually have to pick up calls. Like if I'm getting like a shipment, like a transport truck shipment or something.
Oh, right.
The driver has to call to check on that type of stuff. So I get a lot of calls about my car's extended warranty. But
I never answer my phone unless I know who's calling. And then 2 days ago, I got an email saying that I bought Avi this go-kart that's going to be shipped by a truck on a pallet. and they're like, hey, we're going to call you in the next 2 days. So for the last 2 days, I've been answering every call, and I fucking hate it.
Mine say spam risk typically.
Yeah, I get that a lot too.
Yeah, I'm rocking like an iPhone 5.
Shut up, Matt. Don't pretend, dude. You're rocking probably an iPhone 12.
No, man. I got that home button on my phone. What was the last model that had a home button?
Oh, shit.
Probably 9.
Matt, do you use any devices that swipe up? You've never used a device without the home button?
I think 9 was the last one with the button.
No, I got one camera lens, home button.
Look at you, man. You're such a simple man.
Why do you do that? Why don't you get...
Simple
it's so much
man,
nicer,
bro.
the new phones. But the new phones are so much nicer.
But...
And you're a mogul now. Do you know what I mean? Like, you want your phone to be fast and efficient, and you want a good camera.
If you're willing to live, when it comes to any form of technology, if you're willing to live 18 months to 2 years in arrears, you can get all that stuff for a fifth of the price. Like, this phone, when it came out, was groundbreaking. It was, everyone's like, this is the answer, this is the best ever. And so it's like, all right, that was like a year ago. So it does just fine right now. There's nothing, it does things better, but it's not going to change anything in my life that having that new phone. Like, if something came out where I was like, I need this because it has this feature that I need, then yeah, I'll get it. But if it's just like incrementally better, well, I went in to buy the new iPhone, whatever one, the iPhone 13 or 14, whatever the fuck it was.
I think 12. They're on 12, right?
Oh, okay. So the iPhone 12.
The first time I've never gotten a new iPhone. iPhone 12 will be the only iPhone I missed.
Oh, my
really?
God.
You get one every year? Damn.
Every 6 months, dude.
What?
Oh, my God. Dude. Reorganizing all that shit, downloading all your new stuff. Oh,
they have gotten. It has gotten a lot better. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Matt, you just put the two phones on top of each other. You just put your new phone on your old phone, and they fuck for 30 minutes, and it's done.
They definitely have like figured that whole like moving phones way better. I remember like 4 years ago, it was like you're just like, this shit is not going to happen. I'm going to lose all my contacts.
Yeah. But like I went in to buy the new iPhone, and it was like, I was like, hey, I want that one, this much memory. And then they rang it up, and it was like $1,500. I was like, get fucked. I'm not paying you $1,500 for a phone.
He's like, well, this isn't a negotiation, sir, so see you later.
Yeah. And so I was like, all right, how much is that one? They're like $500. I was like, sick, I'll take that. Because for what I'm doing, I'm like, I need access to like my email, text messages, online banking, and my Instagram to like scroll through it. What is a more powerful phone going to do? Like, yeah, maybe the camera's a little bit better, maybe it's a little bit faster, but it's like, I'm thinking about what I can do with that $1,000. That, like, no, I'll go invest that $1,000. I'll make money off that $1,000 instead of having it depreciate to zero immediately.
Fucking Warren.
That's how I feel about cars.
Warren Buffett over here, you know.
That's how I feel about cars, because a car that from 10, the first car that had an airbag in it was $110,000, right? And now every single fucking car in the world has an airbag.
If you're willing to
has 5 airbags.
If you're willing to live 2 years in arrears in technology, you can live at a fraction of the price. And
is that in your new book, by the way, that advice?
No, my finance book will come out soon. Finances according to Matt. People will love it.
We laugh, but it's coming.
Yeah, like things with cars, like, I don't know. It's, if you, the new big technology comes out, and it's like this astronomical price, and then like you lived just fine before that was available. You lived just fine until that came out, and then you realize, oh, I need it. And it's like, no, you don't fucking need it. You want it.
Very well said.
Like, think about when flat screens first came out.
Oh man.
Like,
yeah.
A 32-inch flat screen, when nobody knew that a tube TV wasn't good enough. Like, that wasn't a problem that people knew that needed to be resolved until the option was there, and then they thought, I need that. It's this same thing with any technology. I'm sure there are things that come out that I was like, holy fuck, that's a game changer that solves a problem or it is a solution to a problem I have, yes, then get it. But in the whole thing of like, oh, well, this camera's a little bit better. Oh, this keyboard's a little bit faster. And it's like, I don't give a fuck. Like,
and that's why I didn't get the iPhone 12, because those days of needing a fast phone finished for some reason about a year ago.
Yeah, but like when the newest and best
time CrossFit let you go?
When the newest and best phone came out and you got it, it was the best thing out there. You're like, this solves all my problems, until that one that's incrementally better comes out and you're like, oh, now this one doesn't solve my problems. Now that one solves my problems. And it's like, no, you were just fine before. If you didn't know that one got released, you wouldn't know you had any problems. So why are you doing that? Yeah. Like my laptop from 2015 works just great.
Realizing that shit definitely is something that is huge, right, for you, for saving money, because there's definitely times where you'll get in that mode, you're like, oh, I need this, and then you stop back and be like, I don't have it right now, and I'm fine, so why do I need it?
Or maybe not even for saving money, for not wasting money.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's crazy too about like, you know, if it's just the mode that you're in. So like a big reason why, you know, like people made fun of me all the time of like, I lived in my mom's basement for way longer than I needed to.
Who would ever make fun of you for living in your mom's basement? What a jerk.
But dude, even
sounds like a nice guy to me.
Even once I had my own house, I bought my own house, and then every summer I would go back to Vermont and live in that basement. And you know, it makes life very simple when there's no room to store anything. You don't have rooms that you need to fill up with belongings, and it gets you in the mode of like being gritty. Like my last iPhone, dude, I had Scotch tape on the screen for the better part of a year because I cracked the screen and I was like, I don't give a shit. And, you know, it's just that mode of being gritty. Whereas like some days it'll cross my mind, like I should go into Best Buy right now and just buy the most badass like Mac or like iMac, MacBook, iPhone, like, and just dive in. Yeah, I could perfectly fine doing it. But it's like, no, I don't want that to translate over into other aspects of my life where I'm getting soft. It's like, no, I want to stay gritty. I want to grind. I don't want to be scared to go without, you know?
Throw out that bed chiller then. I want you to go, as soon as we get off this call, Matt,
fuck
go over to your bed, take that bed chiller, throw it out this.
We had a saying in the teams too where it was kind of like what you were just saying though. You only carried a bag big enough to carry the shit that you really needed. Because if you got too big of a bag and you had empty space in a bag, you'd end up filling it with shit that you really didn't need. Because you're like, oh, wait, I can take this because I have space. And then you'd never fucking pull that thing out, and you'd be pissed because you're carrying it for fucking 4 days out in the field. So you carry a bag that's only the size of that carries the shit that you actually need.
Yeah. And I mean, it's about like who you spend time around, you know, it like whoever the 4 people are you spend your time around, you will become a sum of those 4 people. You will become the average of those 4 people. And so it's like, yeah, if you hang out with 4 entrepreneurs, going into business for yourself and starting your own company is not going to be that intimidating because you're around people that are doing it. Likewise, if you're around 4 dudes that all drive fancy fucking cars, well, it's going to be more appealing. You're more likely to do it. And I fall into it, you know, something like watches, of being around, like me personally, could not care what, like, I want to know what the time and the day, that's it. But you spend enough time around like some fancy people that they're into watches and you're like, man, I need that watch. Yeah. Look at that thing. That thing's shiny. I want that, you know? And then you get away from it. You're like, yeah. Then you say, like, I've never woken up in the morning and thought like, wow, this watch that tells me the time doesn't have enough diamonds in it. I need more diamonds. Like, fuck no. Why am I looking at this?
And then you look at a watch.
Every fancy watch. Go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
Then you look at a watch on Instagram, and then you get ads for watches every 13 seconds.
I received 3 really expensive watches as gifts, and all of them, like, as soon as I thought that, like, it's never going to come back to me, like, no one's going to be like, where's your watch? I immediately have sold them and invested the money. Immediately. I think watches are fucking stupid.
I have two very nice watches that I've gotten as gifts. And I remember one of them wasn't really a gift. It was more of a prize. But like I knew nothing about watches. And when I got it, I told Sammy, like, I knew I had to tell her to like hold myself accountable, but I was like, if it's over 50,000, I'm going to sell it and put it towards the house we were planning on building at the time. If it's under 50, I'll keep it and like hand it down to a grandkid someday or something.
That's cool. I like that. I like that.
And it came in under 50. And so I was like, okay.
49,000.
Yeah.
Shit.
I've worn it, I don't know, handful of times, like when the occasion actually calls for it. But like the watch I wear every day, I got off the Rogue site. It's a Garmin, and it's like I set up the front screen that it tells me the day of the week, the date, and the time, and I'm like, perfect.
Are they a sponsor of yours, Matt?
Rogue?
No.
Ooh,
Garmin.
Garmin? No.
How the fuck did you just say their name then?
Are
you feeling okay? Are you feeling okay?
It's a very basic watch, you know?
What model do you have, Matt? Let's see if it moves the needle. What model do you have?
I don't know. I forget what it is.
Like a Phoenix F5 or something like that. I have the same way. I have two watches, and one was a gift, and then one it was a gift to myself after one of the seasons.
That doesn't count as a fucking gift.
Well, yeah,
you
I paid
buy
for
it
that
for
one.
yourself.
No, yeah, I paid for it. It was a gift for myself. I always give myself a gift after every game. So I got myself a gift.
You give yourself a gift every night when you go to bed too.
Take it easy,
what do you mean
pal.
a fucking?
What do you
Take
mean,
it
dude?
easy.
You
Yeah.
can't say like, "Oh, a watch was given to me as a gift."
No.
From
Josh,
myself.
One
You
was
gotta
a gift. I said one was a gift and one was a gift to myself. I have two nice watches. Shut the fuck up, you two.
I got a hand job last night. Oh, who'd you go out with? Myself. I mean,
What the fuck? No.
Josh is out of his mind. I think you caught him. He's backpedaling, Matt. He's
I got two
backpedaling.
watches. One was a gift. One was a gift to myself that I paid for.
Just drop the gift to yourself.
Yeah,
Just drop
why
the
do you
gift to
say
yourself.
gift to yourself? You bought it for yourself.
You
bought
splurged
a
on
watch.
yourself.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that means, right?
Every
That
time I
means-
go grocery shopping, it's like, gift for
Gift to myself. That's exactly
treat
what it is.
yourself.
That's
You know what?
exactly
I'm gonna feed myself right now.
All right. On with the watches. One was a gift. One you bought for yourself.
Whatever. I had two fucking watches. I'm gonna give them to my kids. That's the end of this fucking story. Boom.
There we go.
Over.
Cool.
And
Shut
I
the
do
fuck
like
up.
that. The idea of getting like the cheapest Rolex watch they make that's not fancy and like wearing it and beating the shit out of it, so then you can give it to your son and then he can wear it and beat the shit out of it, and then he could. That I like that idea. I think that's cool.
Yeah, but like,
I think watches
even
are
still,
stupid.
it's like the cheapest one is like 15 grand.
Right,
And it's
right,
like, woof.
Yeah. I didn't go.
Yeah,
that.
I could
didn't go
never
that
do
high.
that. I want to tell you guys two stories.
You
by the way,
said
Go ahead,
you bought
before we
yourself
get off.
something after every year at the games.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a theme to it, or was it just like whatever you allowed yourself to splurge?
It was just whatever I was into. Like I go through so many different like things that I become addicted to,
Obsessed with.
Yeah. So like one year it was a leather chair that I always wanted, like a nice leather chair to sit in. One year it was a mountain bike. One year it was a watch. And it was just, it's more like, here's my okay for myself to buy this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
I like it.
yeah. So that's all that was. I think one year I bought a gun. I don't remember. But yeah.
That's cool.
So I went to someone's house the other day. They family invited myself, my wife, and my 3 kids over to their house. We went over there for Sunday morning breakfast, and like you don't go to anyone's house empty-handed. So I had a bag of the Good Dude's coffee because I got those like 6-packs or whatever.
Yeah. That's
So I
good,
took.
yeah.
I took one of the bags over there and I gave it to the guy, and I told this story before about Verve, right? About Verve coffee, about how I drank Verve and it was so weak. So I take so he's got Verve on his counter, and I give him the bag of coffee, and he goes, "Hey, would you like a cup of coffee?" And I said, "Sure." And he makes a pour over, and I'm assuming it's the Verve, right? Because that's what he had opened already, and that's like the super trendy good coffee in Santa Cruz. So I drink the cup of coffee, and it's so fucking black and it's so fucking strong. And after about like 30 minutes, I'm like buzzing. Like there's a TV on somewhere that's just like, and I'm like, fuck, dude. I'm like, that was really, really strong coffee. And he goes, "Oh, I ground up the stuff you brought." And I was like, oh shit.
Party time.
But it was a pour over. And I was wondering, my question to you guys is, what makes a cup of coffee strong? But anyway, so the next day he comes to jiu-jitsu with his kids and he goes, "I am so sorry. And I go, why? And he goes, because I made a cup of that coffee this morning that you brought, and like it was like drinking like 3 cups at once. He's like, that was nuts.
Yeah, but
and I'm like, why is Good Dude so strong compared to Verve?
Well, so if he just dumped that bag into the grinder and just ground it up with the same as the other, like different beans need different grinds. Like there is some discrepancy there. So like I've had it here where like I was using one bean to make pour over and then switched beans, but kept the grind the same. And then it was like, it just took like 10 minutes for the water to drain out of the filter. And it's because different beans need different grinds. Like if you're working off time.
Roast levels are typically going to dictate your grind size. So lighter the roast, you're going to want to go a little bit finer, darker.
So you could make that Verve coffee as strong as the Good Dude's coffee if you just ground it different?
No, I don't think so. I think that could also be the roast of the coffee itself, right? So the darker the roast, the less caffeine the coffee's going to have. The lighter the roast, the more caffeine. Mm-hmm. So you actually roast caffeine.
Well, this was the Samson. Isn't that your darkest stuff?
Yeah, that's the darkest stuff. Yeah, that's our very much like very heavily dark roast, caramelized, smoky, has that very old-fashioned coffee taste, right? Like flavor, like it tastes like coffee from like a gas station. But people like that, man. They love that fucking flavor.
That's a little harsh. It didn't taste like it was from a gas station.
But you know what I mean?
Like there's that stereotypical coffee flavor.
How I like to describe it is like if you like your coffee to taste like coffee, because that's an old school mentality, right? Like that's what I like to say the Samson tastes like. If you want your coffee to taste like coffee, you get a really dark roast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it should be less caffeine.
It's going to be less caffeine, yeah, for sure.
Oh. And then the second thing I wanted to tell you guys, I wanted to brag to you guys about. So I had on the Sevan podcast, I had the Monkey King on. He's a UFC fighter. He's 8-1. And it was my first UFC fighter that I had on the podcast. And while I was talking to him, I said, hey, who's your agent? And he said, oh, it's Iridium Sports Agency. And I said, oh, cool. I said, do they have a lot of athletes? And he goes, yeah, I think they might have more. They might represent more MMA athletes than any other sport agency in the world. I'm like, oh, cool. So I looked up Iridium, and I saw their CEO was Jason House. So I reached out to him, and we got him on he's coming on the Sevan podcast.
Oh, dope.
Nice.
And so then I've been researching him, and in these interviews he does, he always talks about who the next big upcoming fighters are, and he mentioned a guy named Mo Miller, who I actually hadn't heard of. So I reached out to him and got him on the podcast. So I'm kind of like...
Sevan, how many times have you plugged your other podcast on this one? You letting all our listeners know, like, hey, if you want to listen to Mo Miller, if you want to listen to the biggest MMA, if you want to listen to 8-1 record.
Listen, we're already 2 minutes past quitting time, so no one's even going to make it to the end. But I'm just sharing with you guys, like, I'm fucking stoked because this is a space... I'm so into fighting. You guys know I fucking text you guys every Saturday night, and I'm like, let's do it.
What?
And
you have never watched a UFC fight.
Anyway, I'm ecstatic.
I'm gonna go drink some Good Dude's coffee and take some extreme endurance protein and wear my JB shorts and hold on, what else? I'm just fucking with you, man.
When is Podium coming out, Matt? When is Podium coming out?
I'm looking for. I know I have a pair of Metcon 7 Matt Fraser's laying around.
Let me see them.
Where are they?
Oh, that's so funny you say that too. Someone texted me today. Actually, Ryan texted me, Jevney, the guy who runs our subclip station.
Okay.
And he said to me, he goes, I don't know where he's going. He just texted me this morning. He goes, hey, when the new Matt Fraser Metcons come out, do you want me to get you a pair? And I'm like, well, that's nice of him. Do you have new shoes coming out?
They came out today.
Yeah.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Well, shit.
Yeah, they're dope.
Yeah, I haven't even. I'm supposedly a Nike athlete. I don't even have a fucking pair. What the fuck, man?
Are they good for wide feet? I have wide feet.
Yeah, the toe box is wider.
Okay, good. Awesome. Well, maybe I will buy a pair. No wonder he said that to me.
Are we ending this thing?